The blue energy beams cut through space like knives through paper. Admiral Tae-ho Kim watched from the bridge of his ship as another human vessel exploded in a ball of fire. The enemy ships looked like giant crystals floating in the darkness. They were beautiful and deadly at the same time. "Sir, we lost the Soul," his communications officer reported. Her voice was steady, but Tae-ho could hear the fear underneath. "That makes 12 ships down in the last hour." Tae-ho nodded. He had expected this. The Zephyrians never lost battles. They had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. Their technology was far beyond anything humans had ever built. Where human ships used metal and fire, the Zephyrians used pure energy. Their weapons could destroy a planet. Their shields could stop any attack. "All ships fall back to defensive positions," Tae-ho ordered. "Focus fire on their lead vessel." The human fleet moved into formation. They were brave, these men and women. They knew they were going to die, but they fought anyway. That was what made humans different from other species. They never gave up, even when giving up made sense. The Zephyrian ships moved forward slowly. They did not need to hurry. Their commander, High Counselor Vextar, was probably laughing at the humans right now. He had destroyed hundreds of species before. Humans were just another problem to solve. On the enemy flagship, Vextar stood in his crystal chamber. His body was tall and thin, made of what looked like living glass. Energy flowed through him like blood. He had lived for over 1,000 years and had never lost a battle. "These humans are amusing," he said to his officers. "They still think their metal ships can harm us. Should we end this quickly?" asked his second in command. "No," Vextar replied. "Let them struggle a little longer. It will be a good lesson for the other species watching. They need to see what happens when someone challenges the Empire." Back on the human flagship, Tae-ho was making hard choices. They had started this battle with 50 ships. Now they had 20. The enemy had not lost a single vessel. "Sir, incoming transmission from Earth Command," the communications officer said. "Put it through." The face of General Byung-ho appeared on the screen. He looked older than when Tae-ho had seen him last week. The war was aging everyone quickly. "Tae-ho, you need to retreat now," the general said. "We cannot lose our last fleet." "If we retreat, they will follow us to Earth," Tae-ho replied. "Better to make our stand here." "That is an order, Admiral." Tae-ho looked at the screen for a long moment. Then he reached forward and cut the transmission. He had served in the Earth Defense Force for 20 years. He had always followed orders. But not today. "All ships prepare for final assault," he commanded. The human ships charged forward. They fired everything they had. Missiles, lasers, kinetic rounds. The space between the fleets lit up like a festival of lights. For a moment, it looked like the humans might actually damage the enemy. Then the Zephyrian shields absorbed everything. Not a single beam or missile got through. "Pathetic," Vextar said. He raised his hand and energy flowed from his fingers to the ship's weapons. "End this." The Zephyrian ships fired at once. Blue death filled the space around the human fleet. Ship after ship exploded. The brave men and women who had fought so hard were gone in seconds. Tae-ho's ship was hit by 3 beams at once. The hull cracked open like an egg. Emergency alarms screamed throughout the ship. The lights went out, then came back on red. "Hull breach on decks 3 through 7, someone shouted. "Life support failing." "Abandon ship," Tae-ho ordered. "All hands to the escape pods." But even as his crew ran for safety, Tae-ho stayed on the bridge. He was the captain. He would go down with his ship. It was an old human tradition. The escape pods launched just as the ship's reactor went critical. The explosion was so bright it could be seen from 1,000 kilometers away. Tae-ho Kim, one of Earth's best admirals, was gone. Most of the escape pods were destroyed by Zephyrian fighters. Only a few made it to safety. The survivors would be taken prisoner. They would work in alien mines until they died. On distant Earth, General Byung-ho watched the battle end on his screens. 50 ships had become nothing in 2 hours. Humanity's last organized fleet was gone. The planet's defenses were weak. The Zephyrians would arrive in a few days. "Send word to all remaining human colonies," he told his staff. "Tell them to surrender. There is no point in more dying." But in the outer systems, not everyone got the message. On the mining world Kepler 442b, Commander Woo Jin Lee was leading a group of human workers. They had been slaves for 2 years now, ever since their colony fell. "But Woo Jin had not given up hope, did you hear?" whispered Dr. So Young Park. She was a scientist who had been captured during the early battles. The last fleet is gone. Earth will fall soon. Wu Jin nodded. He had expected this news. The humans had fought well, but the Zephyrians were too strong. Still, he was not ready to give up. Maybe the big fleets are gone, he said quietly. But we are still here. As long as humans live, there is still hope. The other prisoners looked at him like he was crazy. What could a few slaves do against an empire that ruled the galaxy? But Wu Jin had a secret. Before the war, he had been an engineer. He understood how things worked. And lately, he had been watching the Zephyrian technology very carefully. He had seen something that gave him an idea. A crazy, impossible idea that just might work. Far away from the battle, in the deep space construction yards of the Tau Ceti system, something strange was happening. Human work crews were supposed to be building mining stations for their alien masters, but some of them were building something else. Something the Zephyrians did not know about. The galaxy thought humanity was finished. The Zephyrians believed they had won completely. But they were wrong. Humans had always been good at one thing that other species could not understand. They never gave up. Even when everything seemed hopeless, even when the smart thing was to surrender, humans kept fighting. They found new ways to win when the old ways failed. They turned their weaknesses into strengths. The Zephyrian Empire had ruled for 3,000 years. They had conquered energy manipulators, psychic races, and hive minds. But they had never faced anything like humanity before. The war was not over. It was just beginning. 18 months had passed since the last human fleet died at Proxima Station. The galaxy was quiet now. Most species believed humanity was finished. The Zephyrians had won another complete victory. But in the deep space construction yards near Tau Ceti, Chief Engineer Hyun-Woo Choi was having problems. Human work crews kept disappearing from his construction sites. At first, he thought they were dying from accidents. Space construction was dangerous work. "Sir, that makes 15 crews this month," his assistant reported. "The Zephyrians are getting angry. They want to know where their workers are going." Hyun-Woo rubbed his tired eyes. He had been managing human labor for the aliens for over a year now. It was better than dying, but not by much. The work was hard and the alien overseers were cruel. "Tell them the crews are working on distant projects," he said. "Buy us some time." What Hyun-Woo did not tell his assistant was that he knew exactly where the missing workers were going. He was sending them there himself, deep in an asteroid field far from any trade routes. Something impossible was being built. The project had started with a crazy idea from Dr. Jin-Soo Yu. Before the war, Jin-Soo had been a theoretical physicist at Seoul University. Now he was a slave like everyone else, but his mind was still free. "Look at this," Jin-Soo had whispered to Hyun-Woo during a work break 6 months ago. He had shown him some calculations written on a piece of scrap metal. "I think I know why human brains react differently to Zephyrian energy." "What do you mean?" Hyun-Woo had asked. "The aliens control energy through conscious thought," Jin-Soo explained. "They think about what they want and the energy obeys. But human brains work differently. We have unconscious patterns they do not understand." Hyun-Woo had studied the calculations. As an engineer, he could see what Jin-Soo was suggesting. It should not work. It went against everything they knew about alien technology. "You are saying humans can interface with their systems in ways they cannot?" Hyun-Woo asked. "Exactly. But we would need to test it." That conversation had led to the secret project. Using stolen materials and hidden construction sites, they were building something new. Something that combined human engineering with alien energy technology. Captain Min-Ah Song had joined the project 3 months ago. She had been a fighter pilot before the war. Her ship had been shot down during the Battle for New Korea. She had been lucky to survive. "Frame is almost complete," she reported to Hyun-Woo as they floated in spacesuits around their secret construction site. "But are you sure this will work?" Hyun-Woo looked at the massive shape taking form in the asteroid field. It was not like any ship he had ever seen. The hull curved in strange ways that seemed almost alive. Parts of it looked human, with clean metal lines and practical design. Other parts looked alien, with crystal formations and energy conduits. "Dr. Yu says the mathematics work," Hyun-Woo replied. "That is good enough for me." The mathematics also said human ships could not hurt Zephyrian shields, Min-Ah pointed out. But we all saw how that ended. She was right to be worried. They were risking everything on an untested theory. If they were caught, the aliens would kill them all. If the theory was wrong, they would die anyway when they tried to use the ship, but they had to try. Doing nothing meant staying slaves forever. Meanwhile, the Zephyrians were starting to notice problems. Scout Commander Zelmoth had been investigating strange energy readings in the outer systems. His reports were full of impossible data. The energy signatures do not match any known technology, he told his superior. They appear and disappear without warning. Our sensors cannot track them properly. Equipment malfunctions, his superior said dismissively. Have the maintenance crews check everything. But Zelmoth was not convinced. He had been a scout for 200 years. He knew the difference between sensor errors and real anomalies. Something was out there in the dark between the stars. Back at the construction site, Dr. Jin Su-yu was making his final preparations. The ship's central core was ready for testing. It was a hybrid of human and alien technology that should not exist. Remember, do not think about controlling the energy, he told Mina as she prepared to interface with the system. Let your mind flow with it. Trust your instincts, Mina nodded. She put her hands on the crystalline control interface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then energy began to flow through the crystal, up her arms into her brain. It felt like being struck by lightning and kissed by starlight at the same time. The energy was alive. It wanted to be controlled, but not through conscious thought. It responded to emotion, to instinct, to the deep patterns of human consciousness that even humans did not fully understand. It works, Mina whispered. Around her, the ship's systems came online. Lights that had never glowed began to shine. Engines that had never fired began to hum with power. For the first time in 18 months, Hyunwoo allowed himself to hope. The ship was not just functional. It was magnificent. The hybrid design created something greater than the sum of its parts. Human practicality made the alien technology more efficient. Alien energy systems made human engineering more powerful. What should we call her? Mina asked as she stood on the bridge of their impossible creation. Hyunwoo thought for a moment. They needed a name that captured what this ship represented. Hope, defiance, the refusal to surrender. The indomitable will, he said. Over the following weeks, they ran more tests. Each one confirmed Dr. Yu's theories. The ship could do things that neither pure human nor pure alien technology could accomplish. It could phase between dimensions. It could absorb energy attacks and redirect them. It could move in ways that defied physics. But the most important discovery came when they tested the weapon systems. Mina found that she could fire the energy cannons with impossible accuracy, not because she was aiming carefully, but because she was not aiming at all. Her unconscious mind was calculating trajectories and compensating for target movement faster than any computer. This changes everything, Dr. Yu said as he reviewed the test data. If we can build more ships like this, if we can train more pilots, one step at a time, Hyunwoo cautioned. First, we need to prove this ship can actually fight. They did not have to wait long for a test. Scout Commander Zelmoth had finally tracked down the source of his mysterious energy readings. His ship appeared at the edge of the asteroid field, scanning for signs of the anomaly. Zephyrian scout vessel detected, reported the ship's sensors. Single ship, lightly armed. Mina looked at Hyunwoo. This was it. Their first real test. If they succeeded, they could rescue some of their people. If they failed, the secret would die with them. All right, she said, settling into the pilot's chair. Let us see what this ship can really do. The indomitable will moved out of the asteroid field like a ghost made solid. Zelmoth's sensors detected it immediately, but they could not get a lock. The ship seemed to flicker in and out of existence. Unknown vessel, identify yourself, Zelmoth transmitted. Mina's response was not words. It was fire. The energy beams from the indomitable will struck Zelmoth's ship from 3 different angles at the same time. That should have been impossible. The human ship was in one location, not 3. Zelmoth's shields absorbed the first attacks, but then something strange happened. The energy did not dissipate. Instead, it flowed around the shields like water, finding weak points that should not have existed. The scout ship's engines exploded in a cascade of crystal fragments. Zelmoth barely had time to send an emergency signal before his ship died around him. The indomitable will collected the escape pod and jumped to hyperspace, leaving no trace behind. In his crystal cell aboard the human ship, Zelmoth stared at his captors in confusion. How had primitive humans built something that could defeat Zephyrian technology? That, Mina told him with a smile, is what we call human ingenuity. The Ghost Project was no longer a secret. The war was about to begin again. Captain Dong-hyun Kang had never commanded a ship like the Indomitable Will. Everything about it felt different from the old human vessels. When he touched the control interface, energy flowed through his mind like warm honey. The ship responded to his thoughts and emotions in ways that seemed almost magical. Target confirmed, reported Lieutenant Commander Yoon-ji Han from the weapons station. Arcturus Labor Complex dead ahead. Zephyrian defensive fleet in standard formation. Dong-hyun studied the enemy ships on his screen. 6 crystal vessels surrounded the prison facility like deadly flowers. Each one was twice the size of his ship and armed with enough firepower to destroy a city. "How many prisoners are we looking at?" he asked. "Sensors show approximately 2,000 humans in the facility," answered Tactical Officer Young-soo Nam, "including some high-value targets. Admiral Tae-ho Kim and Dr. So-young Park are both confirmed present." Dong-hyun nodded. Admiral Kim had been captured at Proxima Station. Dr. Park was a brilliant scientist who had been taken during the early battles. Both were important to the human resistance. "Sir, incoming transmission from the Zephyrian commander," the communications officer reported. "Put it through." The screen flickered, showing the tall crystalline form of a Zephyrian captain. Energy pulsed through his transparent body like colored lightning. "Unknown vessel, you are in restricted space," the alien said. "Identify yourself and state your business." "This is Captain Kang of the Earth Defense Force," Dong-hyun replied. "We are here for our people." The Zephyrian captain made a sound that might have been laughter. "Earth Defense Force? That organization was destroyed months ago. You are either delusional or lying." "Maybe," Dong-hyun said, "but we are still here." "Not for long. Surrender now and we will make your deaths quick." Dong-hyun cut the transmission and turned to his crew. "You heard him. They do not take us seriously. Let us change their minds. All stations battle ready." The Indomitable Will moved toward the enemy formation. To the Zephyrians it must have looked like suicide. One small ship against 6 larger ones. The aliens probably thought they were dealing with desperate survivors making a final gesture. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Enemy ships powering weapons," Yoon-ji reported. "Multiple target locks detected." "Evasive maneuvers," Dong-hyun ordered. "Show them what human flying looks like." The ship twisted through space in patterns that made no sense to Zephyrian tactics. Where alien vessels moved in precise formations, the human ship danced like a leaf in the wind. The enemy's targeting computers could not predict its movements. Blue energy beams filled the space around the Indomitable Will, but none of them found their target. The ship seemed to slip between the attacks like water through fingers. "Their shields are adapting to our movement patterns," Young-soo warned. "Standard evasion will not work much longer." "Then we stop being standard," Dong-hyun said. He placed his hands fully on the control interface and let his mind merge with the ship's systems. What happened next had never been seen before in galactic warfare. The Indomitable Will began to phase shift, becoming partially solid and partially energy. Zephyrian attacks passed right through it, while human weapons struck with full force. "Impossible," whispered the enemy captain as his ship's shields sparked and failed under the assault. "How are they doing that?" The answer was something the Zephyrians could not understand. Human consciousness worked differently from alien minds. Where the Zephyrians controlled technology through logic and will, humans used intuition and emotion. They did not command their ship so much as they became part of it. Yoon-ji felt the weapon systems respond to her anger about the imprisoned humans. Her shots curved through space in impossible arcs, striking weak points in enemy armor that sensors had not even detected. Young-soo used his analytical mind to predict enemy movements 3 steps ahead, feeding targeting data to the weapons faster than any computer could calculate. The pilot, Jaemin, flew the ship like he was dancing with a partner he had known all his life. Every twist and turn felt natural, even though they defied the laws of physics. One by one, the Zephyrian ships began to fall. Their energy weapons could not lock onto a target that flickered between dimensions. Their shields could not stop attacks that came from impossible angles. "This is not possible," the enemy captain broadcast on all frequencies. "No inferior species should be capable of such technology." "That is your problem right there," Dong-hyun replied. "You think we are inferior. We are not inferior. We are just different." The battle lasted less than an hour. When it was over, 6 Zephyrian ships had been reduced to glowing debris. The Indomitable Will had not taken a single hit. The rescue operation began immediately. Human boarding parties cut through the prison facility's defenses like they were made of paper. The Zephyrian guards surrendered without fighting. They had never seen anything like the hybrid human technology. Admiral Taeho Kim was found in a high-security cell deep in the facility. When the rescue team broke down the door, he looked up in surprise. "I thought I was dead," he said. "Not today, sir," replied the team leader. "Earth sends its regards." Dr. So-Young Park was in the research section, where the aliens had been forcing her to work on biological weapons. She had been secretly sabotaging their projects for months. "You have no idea how good it is to see human faces again," she said as the rescue team freed her. 2,000 prisoners were evacuated in less than 3 hours. The Indomitable Will's cargo bays were packed with grateful survivors. Many of them wept when they saw the ship's hybrid design. It represented something they had thought was lost forever: hope. As they prepared to leave, Admiral Kim joined Dong Hyun on the bridge. The older man stared at the ship's controls in wonder. "How did you build this?" he asked. "Very carefully," Dong Hyun replied, "and with a lot of help from some very smart people. Can you build more?" "We are working on it. But first we need to get you all to safety." The Indomitable Will jumped to hyperspace, leaving the destroyed prison facility behind, but their escape did not go unnoticed. Deep space sensors detected the energy signature of their departure. Within hours, reports were flooding into Zephyrian command centers across the galaxy. High Counselor Vextar received the news in his crystal throne room. For the first time in 1,000 years, he felt something he had almost forgotten: uncertainty. "One ship destroyed 6 of our vessels?" he asked his intelligence officer. "Yes, my lord, and it rescued 2,000 human prisoners." "What kind of ship?" "Unknown design, my lord. It appears to be a hybrid of human and Zephyrian technology. Our sensors could barely track it." Vextar stood up from his throne. Energy crackled around his body as his anger grew. "Impossible. Humans are primitives. They cannot understand our technology, much less improve upon it." "The evidence suggests otherwise, my lord." "Then get me evidence I can understand. Send Battlefleet Terminus to track down this ship and destroy it. I want the human problem solved permanently." Battlefleet Terminus was the pride of the Zephyrian Navy. 12 massive dreadnoughts with enough firepower to sterilize a planet. They had never been defeated in battle. But as they prepared to launch, none of the Zephyrians considered one important fact. The humans had already proven that impossible things could become possible when the right minds worked together. Aboard the Indomitable Will, Admiral Kim was studying the ship's technical specifications. What he saw amazed and terrified him at the same time. "This changes everything," he told Dong Hyun. "If we can mass-produce ships like this, we might actually have a chance." "One step at a time," Dong Hyun replied. "First, we need to survive what is coming next. Long-range sensors are picking up a massive Zephyrian fleet heading our way." "How many ships?" 12 dreadnoughts." Admiral Kim was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled grimly. "Well, at least they are taking us seriously now." Outside the ship, space seemed peaceful and empty. But somewhere in the darkness, the most powerful fleet in the galaxy was hunting for one small human vessel. The real test was about to begin. The Battle of Stellar Junction would be remembered as the day everything changed. 12 Zephyrian dreadnoughts faced one human ship in the empty space between star systems. Every military expert in the galaxy would have called it suicide for the humans. Admiral Taeho Kim stood on the bridge of the Indomitable Will, watching the enemy fleet approach. Each Zephyrian ship was a kilometer long and armed with weapons that could crack a moon. Against them, the humans had one experimental vessel and a crew that had never fought together before. "Battlefleet Terminus is assuming standard attack formation," reported Young-Soo Nam from his tactical station. "They are confident, sir. No evasive maneuvers, no defensive positioning." "Why should they worry?" asked Captain Dong Hyun Kang. "They have never lost a battle. From their perspective, this should be easy." Dr. So-Young Park, who had joined the bridge crew as a strategic advisor, studied the enemy formation. "They are treating this like an execution, not a battle. That gives us an advantage." "What kind of advantage?" Taeho asked. "They are not expecting us to actually fight back effectively. They will use standard overwhelming force tactics. But our ship does not respond to standard tactics." Dr. Hae-won Shin, the combat psychologist who had been rescued from another facility, activated the ship's communication systems. "I want to try something," she said. "Trust me." As the fleets closed to combat range, she began broadcasting on all frequencies. But instead of threats or demands for surrender, she transmitted something the Zephyrians had never heard in battle: human music. The sounds of Earth filled the space between the fleets. Classical symphonies, folk songs, rock music, jazz. Along with the music came poetry, art, and recordings of human children laughing. "What are they doing?" asked the commander of Battle Fleet Terminus. This makes no sense. His officers were equally confused. In 3,000 years of conquest, no enemy had ever responded to battle with art and beauty. The Zephyrians had suppressed their own emotions long ago in favor of pure logic. They found the human transmissions disturbing. "Should we jam their communications?" an officer asked. "No," the commander replied. "Let them waste their time with foolishness. It will not save them." But something strange was happening aboard the Zephyrian ships. Crew members who had not felt emotion for centuries were beginning to experience unfamiliar sensations. The music seemed to awaken parts of their minds that had been sleeping for millennia. Some felt something that might have been wonder. Others experienced what humans would call sadness. A few even felt something like joy. "Focus on your duties," the commander ordered as he noticed his crew's distraction. "Ignore the primitive noise." The fleets were now within weapons range. The Zephyrians opened fire with everything they had. 12 ships unleashed enough energy to boil an ocean. The space around the Indomitable Will became a storm of blue death, and the human ship danced through it all, like it was made of light itself. "Impossible," whispered the enemy commander as his targeting computers failed to get a lock. "How are they moving like that?" The answer was something the Zephyrians could never understand. The crew of the Indomitable Will was not fighting as individuals. They had become something new, a collective consciousness that operated on pure intuition. Dong-hyun did not pilot the ship. He became the ship. His mind merged with the propulsion systems until every movement felt as natural as walking. Yoon-ji did not aim the weapons. She felt where the targets would be and fired at those locations. Her shots curved through space in patterns that violated physics but somehow found their marks. Commander Jae-min-oh launched his fighter squadron into the battle. The small craft moved like a school of fish, each pilot knowing instinctively where the others would be. They attacked in coordinated swarms that appeared random, but were devastatingly effective. Young-soo processed tactical data faster than any computer, not through calculation, but through pure understanding. He saw the battle as a living thing with patterns and rhythms that could be predicted and exploited. The Zephyrians responded with increasing desperation. They fired more weapons, activated stronger shields, called for reinforcements. Nothing worked. The human ship seemed to exist partially outside normal space, allowing it to phase through attacks while striking back from impossible angles. "Sir, we have lost 3 ships," reported a Zephyrian officer. 4 more are severely damaged. "I recommend we withdraw and call for support." "Never," the commander replied. "We do not retreat from primitives." But as the battle continued, doubt began to creep into his mind. The music was still playing, mixing with the sounds of battle to create something hauntingly beautiful. For the first time in his long life, he wondered if the Zephyrians might be wrong about superiority. Dr. Hyewan Shin watched the enemy fleet's communications with growing excitement. "It is working," she told Admiral Kim. "Their crew efficiency is dropping. The music is affecting them emotionally." "I do not understand," Kim replied. "The Zephyrians suppress their emotions to achieve pure logic. But emotion and logic work together in human minds. They make us stronger, not weaker. By awakening the Zephyrians' suppressed feelings, we are disrupting their ability to fight effectively." The tide of battle was turning. One by one, the mighty dreadnoughts began to fall. Their crews, overwhelmed by unfamiliar emotions and unable to counter human tactics, made critical errors. The Indomitable Will revealed its most incredible capability during the final phase of the battle. When 3 Zephyrian ships surrounded it and fired simultaneously, the human vessel did something that should have been impossible. It split into multiple versions of itself. For a few seconds, there were 7 Indomitable Wills fighting in the same space. Each one was solid enough to fire weapons and take hits. The Zephyrians found themselves surrounded by an enemy that existed in several dimensions at once. "This violates every law of physics," the enemy commander said in shock. "Human physics," Dong-hyun replied over the communication channel. "Not universal physics." The battle ended when the last Zephyrian dreadnought's reactor overloaded. In 4 hours, Battlefleet Terminus had been completely destroyed. The most powerful naval force in the galaxy had been defeated by one human ship and its crew of former prisoners. As the debris field settled into orbital patterns around a nearby star, the indomitable will collected survivors from the destroyed ships. The Zephyrian prisoners stared at their captors in confusion and something that might have been respect. "Why did you save us?" asked the enemy commander as he was brought aboard. "We would have killed you all." "Because that is what humans do," Admiral Kim replied. "We do not win by becoming like our enemies. We win by staying true to ourselves." The news of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than light. For the first time in 3 millennia, the Zephyrian Empire had suffered a major defeat. Subject species that had lived in fear for generations began to whisper about rebellion. On distant worlds, other oppressed peoples listened to the recordings of human music that had been broadcast during the battle. They heard something in those sounds that the Zephyrians had tried to destroy: hope. The Draknari, with their biotechnology, began secretly developing new weapons. The Etherians, masters of subspace travel, started moving resources to hidden bases. The Silicon Mines, artificial intelligences enslaved by the Empire, began planning coordinated uprisings. In the crystal halls of the Zephyrian capital, High Counselor Vextar received reports of growing unrest throughout the Empire. For the first time in his 1,000-year reign, he felt something he had never experienced before: fear. "How many ships did they have?" he asked his intelligence chief. "One, my lord. A single vessel destroyed our entire battle fleet." "And the humans? How many of them were aboard?" "Approximately 200, my lord." Vextar was silent for a long time. 200 humans had defeated 12,000 Zephyrians using technology that should not exist. If they could build more ships, train more crews. "Activate the planet-killer weapons," he ordered. "If we cannot rule the galaxy through strength, we will rule it through fear." His officers looked shocked. The planet killers had not been used for over 1,000 years. They were weapons of last resort, capable of destroying entire worlds. "My lord, that would violate the Accords of—" "The Accords are void," Vextar interrupted. "This is no longer about conquest. This is about survival. Ours or theirs." Aboard the indomitable Will, Admiral Kim was planning humanity's next move. They had won one impossible battle, but the war was far from over. "We need more ships," he told the assembled crew. "And we need allies." "The other species will help us now," Dr. Hai Wan-Shin said. "The battle proved that the Zephyrians can be beaten. Hope is a powerful weapon." "So is desperation," Kim replied grimly. "And we just made the Empire very desperate." As if to prove his point, long-range sensors detected massive energy signatures moving throughout Zephyrian space. Something big was coming, something that would make Battlefleet Terminus look like a minor patrol. But for the first time since the war began, the humans were not afraid. They had learned something important about themselves during the battle. When they worked together, when they combined logic with emotion and technology with humanity, they could achieve impossible things. The galaxy was about to discover what happened when an unstoppable force met an immovable. The news of humanity's victory at Stellar Junction traveled across the galaxy like wildfire. For 3,000 years, no one had defeated a major Zephyrian fleet. Now species that had lived under the Empire's rule for millennia began to believe that freedom was possible. Fleet Admiral Tae-ho Kim stood in the command center of the new human base on Kepler 442b. Around him, holographic displays showed rebellion breaking out on dozens of worlds. The carefully maintained order of the Zephyrian Empire was cracking. "The Draknari have captured 3 mining worlds in the Vega system," reported Captain Sunwoo Park, commander of the newly completed Unconquerable Spirit. "The Etherians have cut off subspace communications to the Rigel sector, and the Silicon Mines have taken control of 17 automated factories." Kim nodded as he studied the tactical displays. "How many ships do we have operational?" 7 hybrid vessels completed, sir. 3 more will be ready within the month, each one crewed by volunteers from the rescued prisoners. It was not many ships to face an empire, but it was a start. More importantly, they were no longer fighting alone. The victory at Stellar Junction had proven that the Zephyrians could be beaten. Other species were joining the fight. Ambassador Dayun Lim entered the command center carrying reports from the diplomatic front. "The Draknari want to share their biotechnology with us," she said. The Etherians are offering to teach us their subspace techniques. Even the silicon mines want to help. What do they want in return? Kim asked. Nothing, Da-Un replied. They just want to be free. This was the difference between humans and Zephyrians. The Empire ruled through fear and domination. They demanded tribute and obedience from their subjects. But humans built alliances through mutual respect and shared goals. The hybrid ships became symbols of this cooperation. Human engineering provided the framework. Zephyrian energy technology supplied the power. Draknari biotechnology made the ships partially alive, able to heal damage and adapt to threats. Etherian subspace knowledge allowed them to move in ways that seemed magical. Each vessel was unique, reflecting the personalities and cultures of its mixed crew. The unconquerable spirit was crewed by humans and Draknari working together. The Defiant Hope carried human and Etherian officers. The Impossible Dream was operated by humans and reformed silicon mines in perfect harmony. But the Zephyrians were not giving up. High Counselor Vextar had made a terrible decision. If he could not rule the galaxy through strength, he would rule it through terror. The planet killer arrived at the edge of the Kepler system without warning. It was a massive crystalline structure, 10 kilometers long and armed with a weapon that could destroy an entire world in minutes. Sir, massive energy signature detected, reported the sensor officer. It is enormous. Kim looked at the readings and felt his blood turn cold. He had heard stories about the planet killers, but seeing one was different. The weapon was beautiful and terrible, like a crystal flower designed to bloom with death. All ships battle stations, he ordered, and get me a communication link to every allied vessel in the system. Within minutes, the small human fleet was assembled. 7 hybrid ships against a weapon that could destroy planets. The odds were impossible, but that had never stopped humans before. Captain Dong-Hyun Kang of the Indomitable Will was the first to speak. Well, this is new. Anyone have a plan for fighting something that big? We do what we always do, replied Captain Sun-Woo Park. We find a way. Dr. Jin-Soo Yu, now the fleet's chief scientist, had been studying the planet killer's design through long-range sensors. The weapon draws power from the stellar core of nearby stars, he reported. If we can disrupt that connection, the whole thing shuts down, Kim finished. But how do we get close enough? That thing will vaporize us the moment we approach. Not if we do not approach it directly, said Commander Jaemin Oh. What if we use the subspace techniques the Etherians taught us? Phase shift the entire fleet into parallel dimensions, attack from multiple angles at once? It was a crazy plan. It had never been attempted before. If it failed, they would all die and the galaxy would lose its only hope of freedom. Do it, Kim ordered. The 7 ships moved into formation around the Indomitable Will. As one, they activated their hybrid phase shift systems. Reality blurred around them as they slipped between dimensions. From the planet killer's perspective, the human fleet simply vanished. Vextar himself was aboard the massive weapon, determined to personally oversee the destruction of the human base. When his sensors lost track of the enemy ships, he felt a moment of confusion. Where did they go? He demanded. Unknown, my lord. They simply had disappeared. Find them. They cannot hide forever. But the humans were not hiding. They were everywhere and nowhere at once, existing in 7 different dimensional phases. The planet killer's weapons could only target one dimension at a time. The attack came from all directions simultaneously. 7 ships firing from 7 different realities, their weapons converging on the connection points between the planet killer and the nearby star. The massive weapons shields flared and sparked as energy beams struck from impossible angles. For the first time in its existence, the planet killer was taking damage. This is impossible, Vextar said. How are they doing this? He received his answer when the human fleet phased back into normal space around his ship. They were close enough that he could see their crews through the viewports. Humans, Draknari, Etherians, and silicon mines working together in perfect harmony. Surrender, came a transmission from Admiral Kim. Your weapon is disabled. Your empire is falling. End this now and we can build something better together. Vextar looked around his command center. His officers were staring at him, waiting for orders. For the first time in 1,000 years, he did not know what to do. Then he noticed something strange. Some of his crew were listening to human music that was somehow being broadcast through their communication systems. Instead of showing anger or disgust, they seemed interested. My lord? Prompted his second in command. Vextar thought about his empire. 3,000 years of conquest and domination. Trillions of beings living in fear and servitude. Was this really what he wanted his legacy to be? "Stand down all weapons," he ordered quietly. "My lord?" "You heard me. Stand down all weapons. Open a communication channel to the human fleet." The surrender of High Counselor Vextar marked the end of the Zephyrian Empire. But it was not the end of the Zephyrians themselves. Many of them, freed from the burden of ruling through fear, discovered that they could feel emotions they had forgotten for millennia. The war did not end with conquest. It ended with cooperation. The Galactic Cooperative was formed 6 months later. Every species had a voice in the new government. Decisions were made through discussion and compromise, not through force. The humans did not become the new rulers of the galaxy. They became its guardians, using their hybrid ships to patrol the borders and protect the peace. Their unique ability to work with other species made them natural peacekeepers. Admiral Dong Hyun Kang, now Admiral of the Fleet, stood on the bridge of the Indomitable Will as it patrolled the Outer Rim territories. His crew was mixed: humans, Draknari, Etherians, even a few reformed Zephyrians who had chosen to serve the cause of freedom. "Sir, incoming transmission from the Andromeda deep space sensors," reported his communications officer. "They are detecting unknown ships approaching from outside the galaxy." Kang smiled. There would always be new challenges, new threats to face. But humanity had learned something important during the war with the Zephyrians. When different species worked together, when they combined their strengths instead of fighting over their differences, there was no problem they could not solve. "Set course for the Andromeda station," he ordered, "and send word to the other patrol fleets. We may have visitors coming." As the Indomitable Will jumped to hyperspace, Kang thought about how much had changed. 2 years ago, humanity had been facing extinction. Now they were part of something greater. A galaxy-wide community based on cooperation instead of domination. The Zephyrian Empire had ruled for 3,000 years through fear and force. The Galactic Cooperative had existed for less than a year, but it was already stronger than the Empire had ever been. Because it was built on something more powerful than weapons or technology, it was built on hope. Behind them, on worlds across the galaxy, former slaves were learning to be free. Children who had never known anything but oppression were growing up in a universe where anything was possible. Artists and scientists and dreamers were creating wonders that no single species could have imagined alone. The galaxy was becoming something new, something better. And it had all started with a single human ship appearing on a battlefield where everyone said humans could not win. They had been wrong about humans before. They would probably be wrong again, after all. Humans specialized in making the impossible look easy. The stars watched as the Indomitable Will disappeared into hyperspace, carrying its mixed crew toward whatever challenges awaited them. In the emptiness between worlds, space itself seemed to whisper a promise. No matter what came next, the galaxy would be ready, because now it had something the Zephyrian Empire had never possessed. It had hope.